everybody. Hi, guys. That's how we're feeling today. Hey, Carol Cooper, go girl. Hi, Danielle. Hi, Connie. Hi, Nicole. December, May, Margarita, and Shannon, and Maureen.
Oh, long time.
Hi, guys. Hey, good to see everybody. Wanguli, Roberta. Hello, everyone. It is so good to see everybody. Let me get myself up on the spotlight. Welcome to our latest MEA live gathering, live workshop, fireside chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just curious, how many of you are here for the very first time? This is your first MEA event thing you've ever done. Wow, awesome. So great to have you here. I lead our digital department and we love to have a blast. Maureen, you already have your hand up? You have a question? All right.
I was saying yes, it's my first event.
Excellent. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Welcome. We love putting these events on at the Modern Elder Academy. We love to have fun. We love to connect with all of you. We love to teach and engage. We have alumni and staff here from all over the world. And I love, if you want to put it in the gallery view, you can anytime on the top right-hand corner. So you can see everybody who's on this call. They're loading in like crazy. And how many, Zoom gets a bad name sometimes. Like we give a lot of shade to Zoom because we get tired of being on these calls, but I think they're magical. Totally magical because we get to meet people from all over the world. So we love to use the chat around here. If you're annoyed by it, just don't look at it. But we want to know, where are you in the world right now? Where are you in the world right now? And what is your favorite type of bread? Aha. What's your favorite kind of bread? And where are you in the world right now? I love sourdough too, totally. Although I do love a good rye. Marble rye is really good. Yep, that's yummy. Yep, so good. A bagel. I can't really say no to a bagel pretty much ever. Butter is the key. Bread is just a vehicle for butter, for sure. So check it out. We call this a chat waterfall. We've got folks from all over the world who are here. Gluten-free is great, especially if it's a good gluten-free bakery. That's like the key. It has to be a good bakery. Loving that. Cutting out the carbs. I know, I've tried. There's a reason why I'm talking about bread in a moment here. So welcome. You can ask questions anytime throughout this session. A little bit later, we're going to give you a chance to engage a little bit and potentially raise your hand and come up and chat with us. Not yet, in a little bit. But get ready for that. It's a really fun way to engage with everybody. So I'm going to bring up here onto the stage in a moment. I'm super excited to be hosting today's event with Carolyn Buck Luce. She's amazing. You're going to love her. She's the epitome of a wise woman. She's done so many things. She is the co-founder and managing partner of the boutique consulting firm Imaginal Labs. She has been in the public and nonprofit sector for 4 decades. She has spent her career building highly effective cultures, businesses, teams, leaders. She's been a diplomat, a Wall Street banker, a management consultant, a healthcare futurist, a talent innovator, professor, author, philanthropist, and executive coach. Come on, Carolyn, come on up here. Amazing, amazing. It's so good to have you here. So Carolyn has become an enormously influential part of MEA. She is part of our guest faculty. She's teaching a mastery week coming up. Nicole's here. I may bring Nicole up in a minute to chat if you want to about the week. She is featured in our Living and Working on Purpose online course. We're here today. She has a fantastic TED Talk, lots of resources to share. So welcome, Carolyn. We're just so happy to have you here, and thank you for being here today.
You're welcome. And I have to also add to the bio, wife, mother, grandmother.
wife, mother, grandmother. Yes. And we're going to talk today about so many different things, but we're going to focus on this idea of creating an epic life by design and not default. And I know, weirdly, before we start in here, I thought I'd start with a bread story, because everyone's like, why did you ask me what kind of bread I want, Kari? What kind of question is that? My team is like, okay, well, I'll tell you why. At MEA, we do this fun thing where we teach everybody how to make bread down at our campuses and also online. And it's an easy recipe you can make in a pot. Like, I am not a baker and I burn every single thing I've ever made, but I can make this bread because it's in a pot. And Carolyn was just down in Mexico with her husband, learned how to bake the bread. And Carolyn likes to talk about being the chief experience officer of your own life, or the chief innovation officer of your own life. And you applied this idea with baking bread to both ends of the spectrum of your life, with grandchildren and with your mother. And we were just talking about it backstage. I thought it epitomizes creating a life by design, of picking little things and using it creatively. So if you don't mind, let's just talk about that, and then we'll get into some of our details.
Well, first of all, I'm going to unblur myself so you can see what we got here, because I'm right now with my mother. I'm taking over for my sister, giving my sister a break. So I'm in Denver. My mother is almost 95, an amazing woman. She was one of only 2 women in her law school class in the University of Chicago in the 40s. And she's 95 now and is losing her appetite. And so I've been baking her bread, and I've been giving her the same choice I gave my 5-year-old grandson last week, who was visiting from New Orleans. You can put anything you want in it. And so based on her request, we have apricots, dates, pistachios, cinnamon, sugar, chocolate chips. It's going to be amazing.
So yummy.
So yummy.
So let's just use this, that clearly your mother has been an influence in your life and how extraordinary she was. And you talk about how you felt like you started reinventing yourself at the age of 8 years old when you got the call. So let's start with that. You know, this idea of creating an epic life has been with you your entire life.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think creating an epic life is in everyone. First of all, let me just say that the original word for epic meant a long form story of daring to do, and daring to be. So I'm sure if everyone listening, you can remember playing make-believe as a kid. That's epic. You were creating an epic story where you were the major character. You were the hero or the heroine. For me, actually, I remember my mother's wedding dress, seafoam over dawn. That was an amazing dress. I'd put that on and whew. But I think there's also a time in your life, usually sometime in childhood, where all of a sudden you realize that there's a purpose larger than yourself that calls to you. And that's when you take your first step into becoming a baby citizen. And maybe it's because something was unfair, or something didn't seem right, or something moved your heart. So for me, I was 8 years old, 1960. John F. Kennedy was running for president. We were in the middle of the Cold War. I was doing duck and cover drills under my desk in school. And at the same time, my mother was a champion around all the President Johnson Great Society programs around poverty. And I just sort of woke up. And Kennedy said on television, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." And that's when I picked my head up and said, I'm going to be a hero too, just like them.
And how many of you can relate to that? I thought it was such an interesting thing that, what age were you, everybody here, when you felt like you could tune into having a purpose? What age would you say, would you guess? that you first felt you had a purpose in your life?
And you can put into chat what it was, even if it was in childlike understanding of the world. You know, maybe you were on the playground and someone was bullying someone. You were like, that's not fair. Or someone was left out. They were standing by themselves. And you were like, ooh, that person needs a friend.
Maureen said in the womb that her
Wow.
was told she couldn't wait to come out. I love that. So for some, it was having grandchildren, some 8, 5, high school, kind of all over the place. Yeah.
Wow, we have a lot of 8-year-old scientists, and yeah, it's right. It's like you either feel joy, something happens to your heart. You see your tears or your joy in other people's faces or eyes. And you were like, yeah, I'm part of something bigger.
Liz says she wanted to be a baker so she could feed people at 10 years old. There we go. Greta said, I sensed it was possible, but I didn't feel it personally. Great. It's an interesting question. Is it?
Yeah.
There we go. I love the answers, everybody. Wonderful. And so what does this mean? You know, this having a sense of purpose at different stages of our life, or having a calling. Some people say, I've never really had a calling. I don't know what that means. It's a spiritual. Some people are very clear. What's your perspective about, you know, some people think of this idea of having a purpose or a calling to be so big and grandiose, like I'm going to be the president, or I'm going to be Oprah, or that it doesn't feel accessible. How do we level that out in our lives?
Yeah. So epic, let me just say, doesn't mean bigger than, better than, king of the hill, smarter than, richer than, more famous, more whatever. That we happen to use it that way. But for me, purpose is the way you believe. One of the ways you see the world getting better, that you feel called to add your unique contribution, however small. You know, the fascinating thing is we now know, and we've known for a long time, that nobody has the same fingerprint as you that has ever walked on the earth. But we now know through technology that there's no one who's ever walked on this planet who has the same eye pigmentation as you, or the same voice timbre. That's why facial technology and voice technology works. So what does that mean? It means nobody will see the world the way you see it. No one will speak a truth that is your truth. And no one can do what you in particular can do, no matter how small. So what I like to say about purpose is it's your job. And you're never out of a job. You just might be temporarily out of a product or a project, but you've got your entire life to follow that original calling, knowing that you can make a unique contribution to one of the many ways the world gets better. And as I look at these purpose statements, maybe the world gets better when it's kinder, or less hungry, or more loved, or fairer. It's actually quite simple.
You know, I'd love to hear you respond to Travis, who said, do you need a purpose? Do we need a purpose?
Well, that's a great question. I would say yes. I would say purpose is the North Star. You know, for me to know that every day there's a way that I can discover meaning for myself and create meaning for someone else, that's purpose. It's what connects you to the awe, you know, the moral beauty of being part of this interconnected web. So, so yeah, Travis, I think life is a lot less, let me say it this way. Life is a lot less scary, a lot more colorful with a purpose.
So hold that thought, Travis. You have more to say about it. And I want to come back to Liz here. who had said she's the one who wanted to be a baker at 10 to feed people, who says, hadn't thought about it, but I bake at the altar bread for our church now. So I've come full circle. There we go.
And you probably make nourishing things, whether they are in the form of a baked product or not. So we can take artistic license around these urges that we have, knowing that they will manifest in many different ways, most of which you can't plan for. But if you feel it, the universe will find you. The law of attraction.
So you have a couple of phrases that I love, and we'll lead into some of the ways you've translated this very, very creatively into a game, which I think is completely genius. The first phrase is, you speak about becoming an ancestor of an age to come.
Yeah.
Becoming an ancestor of an age to come. Team, you can throw that in the chat. Wow. Tell me about that. But unpack that for us. What does that mean?
I got this terminology from Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist who codified the hero's journey, the monomyth of the hero's journey in all cultures of all times. What was interesting is he taught for 30 years at a women's college. And he actually spoke a lot about men and women. And this is what he said. And I'm just going to paraphrase here. The models that lasted for thousands of years no longer work. And that we have to, in the shaping of our own interesting lives, create the myths and the models of the future. And to do that, he said that we need to recognize we are in free fall into the future, and that purpose is connected to the fact that we are ancestors of an age to come. And I just love that because, when I think about your choice to be the hero or the heroine in your own story, a story of daring to do, and daring to be, you are actually following a lineage of many who came before you and planting the seeds for those who come next. And just holding on to that creates a frame for purpose in your life.
Didn't I tell you she's amazing, right? God, so good. So we're going to move on to some of the cool things that Carolyn has created, but just want to make sure we get in the chat. So Carolyn is involved in our online retreat program called Living and Working on Purpose, which is this deep dive into these kinds of questions that we get to do from home, which is awesome. So we have that starting in March, and Carolyn is teaching in April down in Baja on creating an epic life. And I'll bring Nicole up in a little bit to share more about that and some of the things that she's going to share with us today around what does it mean to live in the rapture of life. So let's talk about how you've taken these concepts of yours and you put it into a game, and it's called the Decade Game. And what does that mean? And we get to play it together, you guys, today, which is going to be super fun.
Well, when I was 8 and I had this epiphany that John F. Kennedy was speaking directly to me, the farthest I could think was 18, when I was going to be going to college. And it came to me, well, I need to start planning at 8 for that. Like, what would an 18-year-old have already learned? And what am I going to say yes to? Because I really did feel it was up to me, that I had to figure this out. And that became my first decade game, where I had the bigger frame that I somehow wanted to be a hero like my mother and John F. Kennedy, and then a decade destination of what am I going to say yes to so that 18, I'll be able to become whatever that was. And as it turned out, I ended up going to university to become a Russian scholar. And my first job was a diplomat in the Soviet Union in the middle of the 70s at 21, talking to 10,000 Soviet citizens every day about the story of America. So that was my first decade game. And it was like, well, that worked. So I'll just give you a quick sense of it. The decade game allows you to hold your purpose. And some of you say, well, what if I don't know it? Well, we help you articulate that because you do know it. You just don't know how to describe it. And then imagine if I could be the chief experience officer and say yes to all the right experiences at home, at work, and in the world, all spheres of life, and the chief investment officer of my time, my trust, my treasures, and my talents. What would I say yes to? And who could I become 10 years from now? So it combines sort of the best of learning how to be an epic storyteller. Wouldn't it be amazing if a decade from now, I knew myself and was known by the people who love me and the people who count on me, and then you create that avatar, and that avatar becomes your co-designer of what you're going to say yes to and how you're going to invest your time, your trust, your treasures, and your talents. And it's a game because if you are not having fun, chances are you're playing someone else's game. So how do you create your game, your rules, your filters, your milestones, and do it in a way that's integral to who you are as a human being?
So I have a pre-game idea. So everybody, if you could put in the chat 3 things. Okay, the first is how old you are right now. And then easy math, how old you'll be 10 years from now. And what's one word that you would just immediately comes to mind to that age 10 years from now? So 56, 66, psyched. That's me right now. So go ahead, your age now, age in 10 years, and one word that just comes up. It doesn't have to be positive. It could be terrified, that you identify, influencer, healthy, anxiety, engaged, holy shit, flourishing, uncertain, vibrant. You guys are hardcore masters here. Relevant. Wow, I love that one. Healthy, curious, tough, fun to be with, strong and fit, a creator.
All right, so now I'm going to tell you something else.
Yikes. I saw yikes. Definitely not grumpy, Christopher says.
Yes. Okay, now these are fantastic. Now I want you to write down this number, 87,600. Write it down, 87,600.
You don't have to put it in the chat. You can write it down on your own stuff.
Yeah. Right. Okay, that's the amount of hours that are in a decade. Now, if you sleep 8 hours a night, now I'm 70, I would encourage you to sleep 8 hours a night. That has been an important lesson in my life. If you sleep 8 hours a night, that leaves over 50,000 hours and change. Now, who knows, you can put in the chat, how many hours does it take to become a world expert in something?
Who knows the answer? Throw it in there.
You
Who
got
knows?
it. Okay, Lisa got it. Lisa was first. Ding, 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 ding. 10,000 hours. Okay, so you can become an expert from a standing stop in 5 different areas. So imagine all the different words that you could put down. Because think about this. Think about how old you were 10 years ago. I want you to understand how long 10 years is. You know, people tend to overestimate what they can get done in a year and dramatically underestimate the complete transformation that can happen in 10. So all of these great words that you have, multiply them by 50,000 hours. And imagine that you were playing a game with that language, those words you put in, investing it in your 50,000 hours at home, at work, and in the world. And that's how you play the decade game.
You guys, isn't that cool? I just love that so much. All right, so how do we play this game? What do we do?
Well, the game is, here's what's interesting about the game. So raise your hand if you like playing jigsaw puzzles.
I see a few.
All right, so why do you buy a jigsaw puzzle? Let's see it. Why do you buy a jigsaw puzzle? Why do you pick out one versus another?
It makes my brain work. The challenge, love the picture.
You love the picture, right? Okay, you love the picture. So you buy it for what it looks like on the box. You love that picture. Now, you get home, you open up the box, and you put all the pieces out. And if you're like me, within 30 minutes, you're convinced that you're missing some pieces.
I totally do that.
Okay. Like, okay, they screwed up. The manufacturer just got it all wrong. Like I got a bad box, but you're not. So that's what's important to know about the decade game. We need to paint the most vivid possible picture 10 years from now of how you will know yourself, be known by the people who love you, your family, and be known by the people you serve. And then you have to be super specific about it. Lily Tomlin, the great comedian, said, "I always knew I wanted to be someone. I just didn't know I had to be more specific." So you're going to paint that picture, but you don't play the game in the future. You play it right now, because you actually have all the pieces you need, all of you, right now. You have all the pieces you need right now to have a life of meaning and purpose. And the fun is puzzling all the different ways you can put it together. When people tell me, as a career coach, they tell me all the time, "I don't know what to do next." And I'm like, wrong question. Wrong question. Who are you becoming 10 years from now? What is that bold, epic, amazing picture that's worth dying for? And then how do you live every day in a way that's worth dying for? Knowing that you can make the investments of your time, your trust, your talents, and treasures in teeny ways, the decisions you can do today, the actions you can take tomorrow that bring a little bit of that magic, of that star stuff into the present. I'll just share one other thing if I can. The decade game has all sorts of axioms. What's an axiom? An axiom is just the way it is, except the way it is isn't. It's just the way they told us it was. But as Joseph Campbell said, the models are all wrong. So here's an axiom that I like in the decade game. Practice thoughtful wishing instead of wishful thinking. Wishful thinking either keeps you in the past, I wish I had, I wish I hadn't, if only this, if only that, or it keeps you in the future, wishing for things but not willing to take the action or do the work to create the field of possibilities. That's wishful thinking. Thoughtful wishing is what the decade game is about. It keeps you right in the present, wanting what you have, doing what you can, being who you uniquely are, and being able to say yes to something that's in your control that brings in that magic from the future. That's thoughtful wishes. And the difference between wishful thinking and thoughtful wishing is thoughtful wishes usually come true. So that's how we play the game. It's not in the future. Our dreams are in the future, and we are dream catchers.
So it turns out the title of our talk today is epic, building an epic life by design. And little did you guys know that not only is epic a cool word, but it's an acronym that we're going to play with in a moment. We're going to do a little baby exercise. So if you have something to write on and with, awesome. If you don't, it's fine. You can use your computer or you can just think about it in your head. So take us through this acronym of EPIC, and you tell me when I can put up a slide that you created. You tell me when to put it up, and let's dive into that together.
Okay. So beyond the fact that in Baja, you'll have a chance to actually create your own decade game board in all the spheres of your life that would guide you around all of how to think about your choice architecture at home, at work, and in the world. Life gets in the way, and sometimes we get stuck or triggered or are not our best self. So I like to play a quick game where I think about my home base. You know, when someone tells you, like, take a breath, think of your happy space. My happy space is to think about the 4 adjectives that describe the energy of when I am in my power, connected to purpose, on purpose, in a way that I am my best self and I am my best self. I create conditions for others to be theirs. So you take the word epic. Remember, that just means a long form story of daring to do, daring to be. And I pick an adjective that begins with E, an adjective that begins with P, an adjective with I, and an adjective with C that describes me when I know that I am in my best energy, on power, in power, on purpose. So for me, E, empathetic, P, passionate, I, innovative, C, courageous. If I am getting triggered, if I am stuck, if I'm anxious, if I'm angry, if I'm exhausted, if I'm like, oh my God, meh, life is just meh. I shut my eyes, I take a breath, and I go find my epic. Empathetic, passionate, innovative, and courageous. So put up on the board. And now I want you, I've given you some examples of some EPIC words, but I'd like you to tell me your epic. Who are you when you are fully in your power, on purpose, in service to yourself and the world? How would you describe your energy?
So just take a minute, like for reals, like we're doing this.
I'm
right
seeing
now.
it.
For real, doing it. You can take a look at
Okay.
these words, and then as they're coming to you, you can put them into the chat. And you might change your mind. You might come up with one and then want to tweak it a little bit. But I'm going to leave this up here just for another 30 seconds so that you have a moment here to settle into finding that word. Might be on this list, something that you've come
But
up
you've
with
got
on
some
your
beautiful
phone.
words that aren't. Like Danielle, love playful. Great. And after you've written it down, take a minute, shut your eyes and say it in your head like you mean it. And then come back on chat and tell me how that made you feel. You might want to put the slide back up.
Sure.
Asking for it.
So you're going to read it to yourself, yours.
Read yours to yourself. And
Think
then
about how does that make you feel when you say those 4 words to yourself?
Okay. Those are great, Monique.
So this is a great time to give a couple of you a chance to share. If you would like to share your 4 words and, kind of your thoughts about it, you can raise your hand, like for real now. And we'd love to hear from a few of you who can share your thoughts about why you chose what do those 4 words mean to you? And how does it make you feel? So the reactions button is down at the bottom, and that's the place where you can raise your hand. We'll just take a couple of you who may want to come up and share and be brave and tell us why you chose the words you chose. Eileen, it's so good to see you back. Wonderful. Welcome. You still are on mute, that darn mute gremlin.
There I am. Thank you so much. Well, the first word is energetic, which is the word that's always connected with me. It's energy. The second word is passionate. I agree with you, Carolyn. Passionate. I'm passionate. The third word is inspired. Again, and the fourth word is comedic.
Oh, great.
And I find that sometimes I hear myself saying I'm on this earth for comedic relief. We can be in a serious meeting and all of a sudden something comes out of my mouth. I know. And we all laugh and it changes the tenor of it. So those are my 4 words.
Well, I love that. 2 things. First of all, there's a reason this is a game and not a plan. Like there aren't goals and metrics, et cetera. Play unleashes a whole different level of creativity.
Yeah.
And I also love that humor comes from the same word as human and humus, dust to dust.
That's right. And humility.
And humility, absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you.
So good. Thank you, Eileen. You're going to have to keep that humor going for us. Kit, come on up. It's great to see you. The mute gremlin is the worst.
No, I got it real fast.
Yes, you did.
It's good to see you too, Kari. My 4 words for epic right now are energetic, playful, inspiring, and creative. And I feel like I've got my mojo on when I have those 4 things going, that I really am living my purpose when I'm in those places.
Yeah, that's so great. And, one of the things I like about this is a simple exercise is to be aware that when you're stuck or anxious or angry or exhausted, chances are you're playing someone else's game, not your own. So to be able to get that awareness more quickly and then know what to do about that, to just reshift and find that beautiful, energetic, playful, creative energy, then by definition, you will make better decisions for yourself and create conditions for whomever is on the other side who just triggered you, where give them a fighting chance to get back to their center too.
Beautiful thing.
I'd love to hear more about this, playing someone else's game, Carolyn. If you can give us some examples, and Kit can hang out with us. Do you resonate with that too? So Carolyn, tell us more about what does that mean when we're playing someone else's game when we're not operating from those principles?
Yeah, so I find that there are, the game is actually rigged. The game that we're being asked to play in the world that we're in the culture we're in, is a rigged game. It isn't a game that the natural rules are to be able to be your most human self. And this is for men and women. And what I say is we're all guilty, but no one's to blame. We did not set these rules. But let me just say it, I'm in California, so I'll be a little woo-woo on this one. We swim in a soup that has a lot of distorted masculine energy and distorted feminine energy. And it's hard to be able to find our center, our heart, and then show up as the best version of ourselves all the time. Whether it's the consumer game, or the algorithmic game, or the game that you were born into in terms of the family dynamics. And I guess what I believe is it's our responsibility to go 99% of the way, 99% of the time, to do what we can do to change the conditions so that the human beings can really show up.
Mm.
And that's the game I want to play. That's an epic game. And that, that's one of the reasons I love MEA, is to recognize that as we move through life, we have many different transitions and the game changes. Our jobs change. Do I have time for a quick story, Kari?
Yeah, and then I'll bring up Danielle. Danielle, just chill for 1 second. I'll be right with you. Thank you.
So I've been married 3 times. I was divorced, and then my second husband passed away, and I've been married a 3rd time, and I've blended families and things like that. But when my biological son was 8, no, I guess he was 15. He'd been a challenge. He was a tough kid. Anyway, he went away to boarding school when he was 15 or 16. And one day he went back to school after the weekend, and he left something. So I called him, and then I heard his phone ring. And I realized he'd also left his phone. So I go in his room, and so I have my phone. I go in his room, I pick up his phone, and I see that the caller ID, which is me, is Warden. And I was like, yes, doing my job. Okay, well, now he's 36. And when I call him, it shows up on his phone and he says, Mom. But that's sort of a simple example of the game changes. Our jobs change. How to be the best version of ourselves change. And to be able to learn how to be skillful in knowing when, is this someone else's game that keeps me from being my most integral self?
Mm.
And that's really my game, because when I show up that way, I'm showing up as my unique gift and offering those unique gifts to others.
I love that. Fantastic. Thank you. Danielle, thank you for waiting. Come on up.
Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Kari.
Danielle.
I've been playing the decade game with Carolyn since the fall of 2019.
That's right.
And, when she put out the epic and, I chose my 4 words, part of the reason I chose playful is because I'm one of these A-type, firstborn, do it right, follow the rules. I won't go into how I was raised religiously, but you could maybe guess. But the idea being that living and playing your own game really shifted for me. When I first signed up for the decade game, it was like, okay, this is going to be something different than what I usually do with my goal setting and my, metrics to measure and all of this. And so playful for me has been a big shift in playing, what's important to me. If I can't have fun, whether it's solving problems, dealing with, I don't want to say dealing with crisis, it's not fun, but to find something beautiful in it, then I'm playing somebody else's game. And it has been, it's literally been a game changer. So I just so appreciate what Carolyn brings to the table, what MEA is bringing to the table as a way to reframe how we're showing up in life and how we're serving the world, and we get to play a new game. So thank you both.
So tell us, what are your 4 words?
Oh, where were they? Yeah, it was the enthusiastic, the playful, the intuitive, and centered, curious. There's so many that you want to be, but to me, all of those represented really some core changes for me. To intuitive, to listen to my heart instead of listening to what else was coming at me. And the playful, I can work really, really hard, but it's a challenge for me to play. But when I do, it's.
And look at her face. So
Yeah.
My second question, curious, do you feel like when you're aligned with those 4 words, would you say that feeling would also resonate with feeling like you're on purpose?
Oh, totally. No, that wrap it all up in a nice bow, and that's purpose. And then what, again, the pillars that Carolyn has us work through, how are you showing up in each of those to live that epic life? You have something to just reference and to make sure you're kind of in your lane.
Your lane, playing your game.
Amazing. I do thank you so much, Danielle. That's fantastic. I think it's interesting that in the 5 years I've been with MEA, I have never spent so much time in my life talking about purpose and talking about transitions and talking about learning, because it's so endlessly applicable to our lives as we get into the second half of life. We get an opportunity to assess and reassess again, and choose again. And so I do love this little rubric that you put together here that is a way that gives us a clue. Like seeing everyone's face when you landed on your 4 words, it was like sparkles, fantastic. That's what we're going for, is how do we find that? And that's what Chip has always said, like, it's not about finding your purpose, like you lost your purse somewhere and you have to go find it, but it's about finding that state of being. And then when you're in that state of being, you are automatically purposeful. Would you agree, Carolyn?
Absolutely. You know, Joseph Campbell, you know, who made famous the term follow your bliss. One of the things he said about purpose isn't up here. Purpose is here when you feel the rapture of being alive. And that doesn't mean it's all happy. You know, my late husband was an amazing minister, a great theologian. And one of the things he used to say is, you should hope that you have the opportunity in your lifetime to have your heart break, because that is just a measure of what love can feel like. So purpose is here. It's the feeling the rapture of being alive. And that is not about the destination of any game. It's how you play the game.
Mm-hmm. Love this. And is this only for women? No, this is for men. And here you are, Peter, 100%. Purpose is not exclusive to women, nor is an epic keywords. And I love your background. I'm ready to go surfing in there.
I was just curious about the homepage of the decade game. It says it empowers women. I thought, where does it leave us? We'd like some as well, please.
Yeah, you are not chopped liver, Peter. You know, first of all, my focus these days, and that's will be the week in Baja is a Women's Week. My focus is right now working with women for a particular reason, and I'll tell you that in a second. But I want to tell you that the decade game is for everyone. And the framework of the game is for everyone. My husband, my sons, because the ability to create a life by design and play your own game.
Of course, yes.
Right, and men are stuck in a game that doesn't work for them either. The reason I'm focusing on women these days is, you know, because my own experience, having been in a male-dominated career track for 50 years, diplomacy, international banking, Wall Street, management consulting, I've experienced that women have been pushed to play a man's game in a way that has them be very nervous about what's really coming through them. You know,
I understand that. I totally understand that. I was just wondering why your webpage was particularly focused to women. I didn't realize the course at MEA is actually a ladies' course, a women-only course. Didn't realize that. And I understand what you're saying totally. It wasn't a criticism. I was just curious why you chose to say that.
What I will tell you is one of the things that my husband was with me down at MEA doing the Finding the Magic of Midlife in January, which we absolutely loved. And he and I have, our marriage has a decade game, because marriage, the way we hold our marriage is it's a sacred third. So it's not me, it's not him. We've created a different thing. And so that thing, so not only does my husband have his own decade game, but our marriage has its own decade game. So one of the things that we're working on is creating a decade game for couples. So really excited about that.
I love it. And
look
thank you
forward
for
to that
bringing that
one.
up. It's great, Peter. We don't very often have something just for men or just for women at MEA. Our online program is for men and women. This is something new. We are going to be putting out a men's program as well. So it's like a once a year, occasionally we'll do that kind of a thing. So I wanted to showcase this, but yes, today's exercises were meant to demonstrate that finding that sense of alignment with what makes us sing and thinking about all the possibility that we have in the next 10 years to come is extraordinary. And it's very counter to what we often talk about in kind of our ageist culture, which is about decline and doing less. And, you know, our whole purpose is to throw that mindset on its heels. So Peter, glad
I'm
to
just
have you
reading
here.
Mary's comment, but I don't feel guilty.
All
Sorry.
these men have been the private house call. Okay, well, we're not going to go there, everybody.
we're
we're
not.
modern elders here.
But can I ask a
yes,
question?
Please go ahead, Peter.
I love this idea of the marriage as a third, because I agree with you. We look at it as well. But if you have a course that is directed at couples, I would love it.
Good to know. Good to
So-
know. That's something I've been curious about with MEA. Those who may want to do something with couples, always good for us to hear. All right, I want to take two more. Madeline, come on up.
Hi there. Hi, everybody. And thank you so much for offering these. These are fantastic. But I wanted to ask, this is not meant to be a downer, but it's a real question. So we know that there are so many people who are struggling in the world with mental health concerns, and the world is a hard place, right? Things are tough, and things can be very dark. And I'm curious, Carolyn, in terms of the game and looking for those 4 words. I mean, I think it's incredible. It's wonderful. I love it. But I just wonder how somebody who's hurting, like I feel like if you're a whole person and you're living, you know, you're kind of out there and doing good things, then you can identify these words for yourself and you can go after them and you can come back to them and center yourself. But for people who are broken, who are struggling, who can't even find one word, who don't have a way to become inspired or to find, you know, that inner fulfillment, what would you say to them about how to find that within ourselves? I guess that's what I'm looking for from you, because I think it's something probably everybody here knows somebody who's struggling, who's having a hard time in life, and how do we support them as being a modern elder? What is our pathway for people in that arena? Something like that. I don't know if I said it well.
Ellen, thank you for that question. And I want to say I'm not a therapist. I'm just a human being with a big heart. And what I would say is, you know, you have to meet people where they are.
Mm.
And what I have found, you know, I'm here with my 95-year-old mother. I'm taking care of her right now, and she's, you know, ebbing. And for me to still be empathetic, passionate, innovative, and courageous allows me to just sit and be with her in silence, you know, and try to listen for what's longing to happen for her, so that I can be there for her without fixing anything, but just loving her, knowing how much I love her, as opposed to being scared, anxious, angry, because she's not eating. Why isn't she eating? I mean, all these things that could make me afraid. So you can't do this for someone else. How can you be your best self in a way that's of service? The decade game is all about what am I doing that is of service to my purpose, in small ways and big ways, because we can do something about that. And, you know, for any of you who have been with people who are depressed or anxious or hurt or broken or dying or something. You know, what is it that, what's your best self and how do you stay in that center?
Great question. Thank you so much, Madeline. Beautiful. Jade, come on up.
Oh my, I just want to, so first I have to say, oh my, thank you everyone. And thank you, Carolyn. I mean, this is like music to my ears. I first want to say, just as someone I've been in that masculine corporate world, I have been successful, accomplished many things, and know what it takes to play by somebody else's rules. I don't think many of us in my generation had the wherewithal to realize that, well, and some of us did actually. We knew the missing pieces of the puzzle, you might say, and attempted to bring our own sense of humanity and love and presence and play into it. But it was like going upstream. So I just want to say, without getting into the whole story of it, you know, this is music to my ears. This is also such an affirmation of where we are as a greater culture and as a world. So I'm thrilled for that. That is such, you know, it's music to my ears, and I'm glad it's happening. And the bigger context of Sophia's century, because I know Lynn Twist is a dear friend and she's been on MEA and great with Chip and Kari and all of you. So, you know, it's time. Our time is here and now. And I just want to say that in support of Madeline and any of us, I also am a grief counselor. I'm a hospice educator, not just a chaplain. And because I think we want to educate our culture, our families. There is a time when we're experiencing loss to heal and to take that time, that it's beautiful and legitimate and valid. And we need to make space for that. There is time for that healing presence. Carolyn, you're being in silence with your mother. So just a piece about that loving presence, not trying to fix, there's nothing to do, but to be there with that person, walking along with them. So thank you for that. And I just want to say, I think there are many of us in my generation who are still, we want this new integrated model. Many of us are living into it and we want playmates.
Yes. Oh, Jade.
I know. I'm like, this is the first thing I've heard for a while that just appeals to every molecule of my body. I just want to say my cells are up and dancing.
We love it. We're going to let you dance in a second. Thank you so much.
Great. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Jade.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn Buck Luce. We did this at MEA. It's called Polishing the Pearls of Wisdom. All you guys know, all of our alumni. Thank you so much. What a fun, inspiring hour. I hope everybody enjoyed this thinking. I hope you're going to be thinking about your next 10 years in a different way. I hope you're more inspired about how much time we actually have to create something new. We'll be capturing the recording for this. It'll go on our YouTube channel. You'll get an email with all these links. If you watch the recording, you can actually go back through the chat, which is actually crazy fun to do, to see all the things that are in there. You can see Carolyn in our purpose course, which is for men, women. It starts March 17th. It's really fun. We have several purpose course grads who are here today. And of course, Carolyn's week with Nicole, who, oh my gosh, I have to bring you up in this one last second. Where are you? Find Nicole, bring her up, you guys.
To Baja and play with us. Nicole and I met this morning to co-design, to give you the best of Epic and the best of MEA. And we're like super, super excited. Yay, Nicole.
Yes. So
Right, we want
you have
all
the
the
last
people
30 seconds.
I was going to say, we want all the people who want to play, who want to seek play, find play, because that'll be part of your plan. Love to laugh. I just got back from a fantastic week. I've been involved like Kari for 5 years, and there's no place that gives you more clarity, and you meet such interesting people, and you laugh till your belly hurts, and you might cry, and you might get that insight that you were looking for, but you'll leave so whole. And I have to say, the food. You will be happy just for the food. So they take care of you, mind, body, and soul. Beautiful beach. You can always join me for my 20,000 steps a day. But Carolyn and I couldn't be more excited to have you. And we did work 3 hours together to really make it a fully integrated week from beginning to end with the Modern Elder curriculum and the Epic playbook.
Yes, thank you, Nicole, one of our new facilitators at MEA. Rockin', so exciting. All right, Leslie is going to take us out with some music. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank all of you for being here. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, evening, whatever it is.
Best, really.
I got this feeling
There we go.
inside my bones. It goes electric,
Go,
baby,
Carol.
when I turn it on.
Come on, honey, I'm bringing
Off
you
from my
up.
city, off from my home.
Hi, honey.
We're flying up no ceiling when we in our zone.
There we
I
go.
got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. Come on, like the way we rock it, so don't stop. And under the lights when everything goes.
All right, that was fun.
Nowhere to hide.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
When we move,
Hope to see you. Baja.
so just imagine.
Great morning. Thank you so much, guys.
When you dance, dance, dance.